Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Bonjour, Onin. Bonjour, bonjour. Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Makade Mashkiki Wabo Blackwater Medicine Podcast. Malagard Nadisnakas, Makwa Inana Indigo, Makwa and Dodum, Long 58 and Dojaba, Thunder Bay, and Da. Just say that over and over again. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, thank you guys for showing and listening to this podcast. As you guys see, I'm doing something a little bit different with my podcast. I got a couple of little logos I'm working on, a couple of designs I'm trying to figure out. I want to do far more this style of podcast, and yeah, it's a work in progress. It's still a work in progress. I mean, I think with today's technology, you can do all kinds of great stuff with it. And at the same time, it's sort of a plane crash of ideas. That's how I kind of look at it. As always, I'm going to smudge. That's part of my protocol for this show because I want to speak the good ways and for y'all to listen in the good ways. I really love doing this. That was my favorite part. Smudging. So amazing. Welcome to Good Spirits. So today's podcast is going to be somewhat of a different topic. I wanted to do this thing for quite a while, and I originally wanted to talk about false elders and stuff like that. But instead, I decided to change this up to the positive teachers and elders that we have with us and those who have passed on. In honor their memory. I had to think about Gitchi-aya'aa. That's the word, Gitchi-aya'aa. The Ojibwe word for elder. Great teachers, the great knowledge keepers, the humble ones, those ones who started it all and kept it all. And reflecting history. I actually love history. I'm a very big history person. I really like watching it. I was very good in school with that. The elders that are here currently today, probably around in their 80s, give or take. 80 earls and late 70s. And these men and women who have, I guess, basically kind of kept a great secret. They told everybody. And I'll get into that later on in the show. I was thinking about my uncle, my late uncle Gilbert Lagarde, and what he has done for me, and I'm also thinking about I still have elders that are here today. I have a wonderful, powerful, humble woman named Veronica Wabus, who's a former chief of 58. And another lodge carrier and keeper is Alan Togijik. These two are the last of my great circle. I've had dozens. I've had lots. I have plenty of good ones, really good ones. And I just want to think about them for a minute. I had an elder one time was sharing with me, a good truth about why we do things spiritually and how we should see things spiritually. And through her teachings, I began to look at how we're connected through our ceremonies and what we actually talk to and who we talk about. And this is the great mystery of life, the the light, God, Yahweh, fancy good names, but it's mostly about Creator itself, you know. But there are also many other creators. The four directions has a spirit. The animals have a spirit. The tree spirit, the water spirit. These enlightened beings that have every knowledge in the world. That's we also acknowledge. Um, as I said before, I want to talk about elders and the positive impact that they have with us as community members of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. And you know, uh, I want you guys to sit there for 1 minute and think. I want you to think. Your past elder, your one that you went to for everything. And a lot of us are. I guess I'd say I'm personally for me. I'm lucky. I think I am lucky to have such wisdom carried on. But it was actually a pretty much a long road to get there, because my original elders was my grandparents, my great grandmother, my grandfather, um, my Mishomis and my Gokum. They were the original keepers for our family, and with these two, it was all about. I gotta say, it was about work. It was really about work. We lived in trapline, so we basically, I was a brat back then, and I'm still a brat now. And I just wanted to think about them, because going fishing with them and hunting with them, it's not like a camping. It's not the same. Not the same. When you're hunting moose, you're really hunting moose for your food, basically. And so I remember with my uncles and my grandfather, we'd go out there and we'd get the moose, and I would carry the guns back with them to the campsite, to the trap lines, and they would carry the moose back. And uh, you know, that's that was everyday purpose. That was everyday life. I still recall not getting lost in the woods. The back of the woods where I was at, I knew. It's part of what it was growing up, and knowing what berries to eat, what food to eat, what how to look for my rabbits. Ugh, it's such a good such I think just a lot of work. That's a lot of work, and so that was one of the things. And of course, my grandmother in hand, she was literally the fire of our house. She the gentleness about her, and there was fierce about her, because she was knowledge keeper herself. Uh but those two weren't the only ones. There are other families out there that had knowledge keepers among their own families, and they would, get together so often, and they would share food and talk about the old days and hunting and so on. And I was kind of lucky enough to group around these men and women. I was privileged enough to stay with them. And so as my grandfather, here's how it happened. So here's what my grandfather was getting older, and he couldn't we couldn't do a lot together. So he basically said to me, it's like, goes to Uncle Gilbert and me, and he says, I want you to learn everything from him. And so, okay, here I am, young kid, stupid as anything else, staying with Uncle Gilbert. And during the many summers of being there, I'd be with him by him all the time, you know. And that was just the start of all the other elders that are in our community. I was basically always with them. I never really hung around with a lot of my family. I just didn't really do a lot with them. Um, so as I said before, the elders and the knowledge keepers that are there. Um, I learned many lessons. I learned a lot of different things. I just I don't even know where to begin with that because it's just so much stuff. You know, it's like you have a storage unit full of stuff, and it's all like valuable, so you don't want to get rid of it. You know, that's what it was. You know, one person would share me one knowledge, and one person would share me another knowledge. I would just go that way. I just started to reflect on them because um you know I still have two left out of dozens, and part of me is a little bit heartbroken because one day, the spirit will call them home, and that's it. For me personally, that's it. Yeah, I just think about that sometimes. Um, the knowledge people that have and going out there and seeking it, um, that's something that as people, um, I'm sorry, my brain is kind of drifting because of the fact of growing up and listening to and thinking about about the times I got in so much trouble with certain things because it's such a good memory, such a good memory. Um, yeah. So there it was, right? Learning how to be a firekeeper, right? And my uncle Clifford was there one time. He's sharing with me. He's like, "Okay, here's what you don't do: don't put nothing in that fire." I'm like, "Okay, are you listening to me?" He's like, "Well, yeah." You look at me again. Oh, you're listening to me. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm listening. I know. He knew I wasn't listening because I'm somewhere else in space. And then he's like, oh, jeez, he says to me. And that was it. Because he knew that this is what we're going to do. We're going to get him doing this. And just, yeah. Yeah, I really think to my times during the summer seasons growing up back at home, um, of all the stuff I've done with. But I'm lucky. I am lucky, and many others out there are lucky to have these people with us. But there are some that didn't grow up with elders. They didn't have knowledge keepers, and so um, that's the thing about knowledge keepers. That's one thing about Uncle Gilbert always did for the people before he passed on is that he passed on everything that he could ever think about and learn, and he would always like he would always say to me, he's like, I'm giving away gold. He would say, I'm giving away gold. One of his little sayings, his quirks. And he say, and this is how he would say, and that's how he starts it off. In Ishnabe, but always, and he would kind of talk to that in that monotone voice of his, and he would talk about how, we're the future of our First Nation. He would talk about the future of where we're going and what we're doing. And I remember the warnings he would give to us of us being careful if we step away from the spirit itself. And he would always acknowledge the spirit. And he says, without that spirit, our knowledge is worthless, he would always say. And I always think about that. I think like, he have lots of elder friends with him, and he would always make them root back to the spirit itself. And that's what one thing he wanted more than anything else is the people to remember. Um, not about our degrees or diplomas. It's about us walking with the spirit itself. Yeah, that's the thing about those elders that they're rooted in with with the spirit itself. And he wants to know a lot. He wanted me to also learn a lot. I think some of the things I had to learn to work with it to understand was sometimes like, why am I doing this and why am I learning this? I remember one time he said to me for me to learn. I think I was like in my, I don't know, I was like 15. I think 15 in my 15s and so on. He wanted me to learn Christianity a lot. Not because of my Aunt Marie. My Aunt Marie was actually a dedicated Catholic. She was hardcore. But she said for me to learn why Christians believe what they believe. And so I spent a lot of time a lot of Christian people out there and talking to them and reading about them and hanging out with them, being friends with them, because he wanted me to understand. And this is really was quite interesting. Is that he wanted me to I guess to say when I'm done with the Christians, I guess he wanted me to say when you help out other people, you want to see also how they look at spirit themselves. You know, and he was never against Bibles. He was never against churches. He wasn't say condemning them to walk. You're not indigenous enough to walk with us. He always acknowledged the spirit as spirit. God is God. You know. And so now when I think about when I meet up with Christian people and how they're sharing with me their biblical views and so on, I always reflect on what he would share with me and how we have a kinship with um God and get humanity, this great mystery, the great spirit. And why? Because my elders said for me to learn from them so I can learn how to talk with them. The argument isn't about God, it's about talking with God through ceremony. So I guess that's why a lot of times, they would always be kind of weary for me teaching other people their secrets. And he shared with me one time there was a story that he was a boy growing up. He said there was a lake one time that was full of fish, and there was their hunting fishing ground. Everybody went fishing there, but they would not overdo it. And then one day they brought this person that was there who wasn't a part of the group, and they went fishing, and the guy's like, "Wow, there's a lot of fish in here," and so on. And he was welcome to come there, but then what happened is that he brought his fishing partners and buddies there, and they literally wiped out that lake with all the fish that was in there. And I was like, wow, like, that real? Like, yeah. And I remember like other people was with me when he shared me the story about this lake. And I'm trying to think of this lake for the life of me. But he said that lake is that fish, that area is dead. Um, and so that's one of the things that he would share with me, because sometimes we as knowledge keepers, we got to be careful of who we're teaching and sharing with, because some people will exploit it, their knowledge. He was always cautious about that. One thing he's always cautious about that for 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 that, because knowledge is very powerful. It's a very powerful armor, I guess you say, for First Nation people. Why were we carrying an eagle feather? We don't have the knowledge. We don't carry the hand drums, and so on. He. That's one thing that the old timers wanted us to learn, as knowledge is a very powerful healer, but at the same time it can be a powerful weapon. And yeah, yeah, I always hear their warnings, and every time they would talk about something, and through my past experiences, I realize what they're saying. I really do. Ah, you know, uh, I was gonna do a podcast about false elders and teachers, but I think I'm gonna do that for another time, because um, the knowledge keepers that are here today, so few of them left. The good ones, I'm saying, their time's coming soon where the creator says, time to come home. Let's go home. And that's it. And so there are many of them who are now passing on to the spirit world. And I'll probably share later on about that, about spirit world and all these other things and so on. But for now, let's just share with the topic and stay with the topic of elders. Um, I I'm always quite curious about, when he used to meet other elders. I was always hearing stories about him talk about other elders. He would say, he said he went to this gathering one time, and everybody all shook his hand. They all knew him, and all like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Good friends and stuff like that. Eh? And so he would sit there, and he would, these elders would say, "I'm fifth generation, da da da," and I am so on. Right? They're big important titles. He would say, and he always says to them, And he always trying to remind them, and I love this about him. The quiet thunder of him is that he would say, if you are so sacred and if you're so wise, I want you to go give me a log from that fire. And he would, and these people would be like, what? What? Yeah, if you are that sacred and you're that powerful and you're that kind of, I want you to give me that fire. Go on. That fire not going to hurt you. And they would kind of like debate with him. But he would say, no, no, go on. And he would wait for them to actually, grumble among each other. And he would say, and he'd do this such a gentle way. Say, you know what? You're not that sacred. You're still a person. And he would remind them of their ego. He would keep their egos in check. Because if you're living on your titles and you're this type of thing, you're forgetting the fact that there's only one. And he would say this. This is what I love about him. He would say, I only knew one man that stayed that walked on water, and that's it. And that's how he would acknowledge um something greater than him. And that's how it would start. Is he would remind people to stay as humble as they can, even though he walked and worked with a lot of elders in various communities. And that was some of the things about him and other elders in our communities that no matter what day it was, and I always still remember this, like, they would get together in his trailer and they'd all come around, drink tea, have moose meat, something to eat. They'd always have something to eat, all of them, no matter who they are. And they would just talk, share stories, and just sit there. I would sit there, be amazed of no matter who it was. And I still remember going when he passed away and looking at the where he used to have his trailer. And it's not there anymore. It's an empty spot. And that trailer would be there. And I remember thinking, everybody used to come there. Everybody did. Drink tea, talk stories, and just reflect. Because they would all just sit around. And that's a part of me that's really sad about how, these things happen. But you know what? I'm also happy that the fact that everything he's given to me, it's in me. That knowledge that he would share with me. And he would always kind of worry about the future of our people because he knew right back then, we're going to be going through different changes of things. And a lot of people he always went to lengths to try and help people out with everything. And yeah, that was one of the few ones out there in the world that was always, well, locally, who would be the one to the go-to man. When I start thinking about now, where we're going as the elders of today, and what shape they must deal with. Um, I was going to share this topic, but I'm going to, like I said, do it later on. Um, our elders are probably one of the most precious part of who we are as First Nation people, as one of as a nation itself. They're you have to think about them. That's just for a minute, just for a minute, just sit there and think. You know, this person is maybe 86 years old, maybe 70, and they're living day to day, and then yeah, you know what I'm saying. I myself, I'm always I carry a little bit of a heartbroken thing with me with the elders because I had such a great time with them. All of them. I had a great time growing up as a kid. I would, yeah, some of the things they made me do. One time I remember they're all going to a campsite and I had to load up their boats. I'd spend the entire day loading up their boats and I wouldn't be going with them. That's one thing they would do. They'd go on their own. And just that was it. That was my thing because they wanted me to learn how to serve people first, you know. Uh, Even other things like, learning how to keep sacred items. I ended on my uncle says to me, "Okay, I want you to go down to the lakeside and go get yourself a rock and keep it and come and see me 1 year." Okay, pretty straightforward. And lo and behold, a year later, would show up and he would say, "Oh, you got that rock?" I'm like, "What rock? What are you talking about? That rock I told you to do. Boy, go down there and get a bigger rock." It's like, go down there. No, 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 not that one. I want you to get a bigger rock. By the time he picked up the stone, it was a boulder. Yeah, I had to carry a boulder. Because, yeah. So there I am carrying this boulder. People come by my place and my apartment. Say, "What the heck's with this rock?" It's just something I had to learn how to keep. Come back a year later and say, so where's your boulder? Where's your stone? Right here. Good. Now put it back. Just okay. So I'll bring it back and put it back where it was. And he says to me, and it was really amazing. Like, you're gonna be starting collecting sacred items. You need to start learning how to take care of these items when they are given to you. I'm like, okay, okay. Like now I now understand. Now I understand, right? Oh man, there's so many. Oh, here's another story. So this teacher from a university had was up in BC area and she found a dead eagle. And she asked permission from the locals down there if she can keep it. And and elders down there said, "Sure, yeah, you found it, it's yours." Gave tobacco, and she had it in her garage, I guess, for quite a while. And so I went to one of her classes and teaching and talking and stuff like that. It sounded like my uncle, mimic him, and he would say, "Hey, you know what? I got something for you." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" Like, come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you. So I was like, "Okay." And so, um, I went and seen her the next day, and she gives me this big, large box of eagle feathers. I'm like, what? Huge box, big box. And so I ended on showing to my uncle, "Look what I got! Look what I got! Look what I got!" He says to me, puts his hand on my shoulder, takes one eagle feather, takes a small one. "Now, I want you to give them all away." It's like, what? Give them all away. Every last one of those. I want you to give them all away. But no, go on, go on. I don't know. I gave them to just about everybody I can think about, but someone who's worthy. Even the plumes are gone, right? And so, uh, if you ask me now who I gave it to, I can't remember who I gave it to, but all this box of feathers were gone. And so I came back to him a little while back ago, and he said, "What? So where are they?" I said, "I gave them to people." Good, good. And he said, wanted me to learn that sacred items are meant to be giveaways. Give them to someone who's worthy enough. And so I gave people that are really trusted and like. And so whoever has my feather, whoever has this box of feathers, enjoy them. It's these lessons that are given to me over the many years of learning when to give and not to give. See, when to give and not to give, and that's me giving away all those boxes of feathers. Um, that I had to really figure out. And so these are the stories that I keep with me, that I share with people about my uncle, and with the many elders that are with me. Yeah, there's so many good memories, many great one-on-ones and so on. I remember I remember I got a job working in Edmonton, of all places in Edmonton. And so I was back at home and I was like, oh, I got to catch a train, go to grab the train from Long Neck to Edmonton. And so I'm like, oh no, I got to wake him up. Wake him up. It's like, because you got to catch a train about 5 a.m., I think, or 4 a.m. at the train station in Long Neck. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, Uncle Gilbert, I need a ride. Holy jeez, boy. Are you serious? It's like, yeah. Puts on his thing, and he was mad. I could tell he was mad. He doesn't get mad that often, but I could tell he was really mad at me for this. And you're driving. He didn't say nothing. And then they said, you got your ticket, right? Yep. You got your backpack? Yep. You got your wallet? Yep. How much money you got? I don't know, $100. Pulls out like $150 and gives it to me. Gives me a hug, and he gives me a long hug though. That's one thing about it, Gives me a hug, and I want you to take care of yourself, okay, and come back when you're done. And that's how he was. He doesn't stay angry. Short time he's angry, but he doesn't stay angry. And I jump on the train and see my community going by, and that's just some of the things that I've always kind of worked with him, because you also got to learn how to not to be so angry with things and just let it go as fast as you can keep it. And it's all these incredible stories and lessons I've always kept from these elders that always remind me of how important our spiritual is with things. I still remember this other elder says to me, don't ever carry your items when you're angry. I'll just go on that for a minute. Um, because it infects your items, no matter what it is. And another one, this other lady, she was sharing with me, don't ever bring your items to a protest because it loses its healing ability. And I remember sharing that some time back ago when the Idle No Mores began to happen. I began to say to people, like, don't bring your drums there because no longer a healing drum, it becomes a war drum. Because our spirit gets infected by these things. They're touched by these things. That's why I kind of wonder, the changes of what what you listen to and how you begin things. Yeah, learning a lot. I like learning how to make shakers and hand drums and all these different things because I was a kid growing up, and my grandma would make shakers for people who needed them, and she would show me how to make them using her beaver pelts. She used to make beaver pelts, stretch them out and stuff like that. And she was always, she always told me these little things that I always think about now that was really so important. Um, careful when you when you walk down the road there, you're rocking your shoes. She would say, yeah, just these things. For me, I look at the stuff I'm making now and never think that 30, 40 years ago someone would share some story with me, and here I am making an actual reflection of these stories. And I just think to myself all these beautiful memories I have of my elders in my community. One of my elders would share with me, don't be afraid to speak out. I get myself in trouble with that quite a bit, but that was a lesson. Don't be afraid. That was the lesson. Don't be afraid. And I thought, wow, jeez, that sounds that sounds something. I don't live in fear. I really don't. I don't live in fear of a lot of things just because I'm built like a tank. I'm built like but I'm still not afraid of a lot of different things because of this person. Uh, it's all these simple little lessons that are given to us that we don't even realize that is so important. Now, I want you to think of your grandmother and your grandfather, and you think for a second, what lesson did they share with me that would help me out today? 2024, right? What lesson did they give me back in the 80s or 70s or 90s? What did they give you? That's how important our elders are, knowledge keepers. You I also don't ever overlook the fact of our seniors too. Our non-indigenous people out there. Um, because their knowledge is just as important as our Nishnabel people. I still think about this old man that used to live down the street from me when I was going for hockey, and he would say, "Here's how you hold your stick. Taught me how to do a good wrist shot. That's how you hold a stick every time." And I still remember, football, walking door to door, asking people if they would help support me as a football guy. And I remember walking into this old man's house, and he was a CFL guy. I didn't realize how important this guy was, but oh, come on in, young man. Oh my God, he would come in. He would walk me in his house, and I'd see a CFL stuff, and I'm like, wow, real football player. And he got into his memory, and he starts talking to me like, okay, here's how you're gonna tackle. Never tackle with your head because you'll break your neck. Of course, that's senior knowledge. That's a knowledge keeper of its different time, different era, and never overlook these men and women out there who are in these people who've done things, because that's how important these things are. Um, I still have maybe one non uh indigenous friend person who is a knowledge keeper, good friend of mine. I don't see him as much anymore. He's in his 70s, I think. And I'm a pain in his ass. That's how I am with him. But we have a lot of good talks. He was my go-to. And I think about him too quite often. Shout out to Ken Funk, that guy. Good guy. Love that guy. Yeah, yeah. This podcast was about not just Uncle Gilbert, but a lot of people that are coming in our lives as elders and as knowledge keepers and as wisdom carriers and so on, that we need to give more credit to, because their time is not really here anymore. It's almost going, and one day we're going to be the elders, and for me that's a scary thought, because I think what they all wanted me to be is to be responsible for things that they're giving to me, and responsibility is one thing that they want. And for me to think about that for a second, that's a huge, huge, huge gift. To be an elder, to be called an elder. And Gitchi-aya'aa, Gitchi-aya'aa. One day I'm gonna be Gitchi-aya'aa, elder. That's scary. It's I have to laugh at that one because it is scary for me. Oh, yeah, I miss you. I miss my uncle. Just sit down and listen to him for one more time. One good lesson. First of all, I'm going to be changing this format as much as I can with my podcast. It's still working. I got new equipment. I'm just learning how to work this equipment that I have, and I'm still going to do my gaming. I think I still like my gaming, so you'll see my podcasting with gaming. But this is the podcast most people have been asking for, and I've been getting messages from people doing for me to do a lot more podcasts. So later on, maybe I'll do two at a time within a week to have more of an audience impact. And you know what? I'm working on getting merchandising. Yeah, I'm just thinking like, hey, someone's gonna one day wear my shirt, and yeah, support me in some way. So other than me panhandling for likes and panhandling for followers, someone might actually want to be, hey, yeah, do you have a shirt? Have a sticker? Hey, that's a possibility that's there because this Indigenous podcast, you know, talking about Indigenous issues and things like that, um, is one thing I'm trying to really make work. And maybe, hopefully, I'm also looking at something like a digital podcasting because some people they don't have videos that they want to listen to it on the road, and of course definitely gonna have to start paneling for money, and I don't want to I don't ask people for money, but that's maybe later on something like that. But anyways, I want to thank everybody for this listening to the show, you know, and yeah, I hope many of you just look at your elders and say thank you and hug them and love them. I love you guys very much. Anyways, on my pay. Aha.